players, welcome back. This is a beautiful day here, and we will be recording Local Football Flavor live drafts for all of you on Mondays and Wednesdays at 3:45 Eastern. We know that a lot of you guys are watching the replays thereof. Obviously, click like and subscribe. We're not going to badger you that throughout the episode. Just do it. But what we're going to go through in today's show is something that a lot of people do both in best ball leagues and in their normal regular drafts, which is I know who the hell I want. I'm just going to make sure they get on my team. And today's episode, we're going to go through that in an underdog best ball draft where you're drafting 20 people because it's before the draft, half PPR. And we're going to talk about having done enough of these, knowing the ballpark places go at, and just 8 people we want to guarantee to be on our team. Now, we're not being jagoffs about this and being like, I want J. Jeff, Chase, and, Monty. We can guarantee they're all on my team. Well, maybe 2 of the 3. So what we're going to do, this is going to be a little bit later in the draft, probably 5th round and later guys that we're going to go out of our ways, even if we need to take them ahead of the current ADP to make sure that we get them on their roster, because we just think that they have, not just for their value, but they just have massive blow-up potential, and we need to get a part of that in our lives. So, Bob, that's really what today's episode's about, and see if there's anyone that rings true to you, like, they got to be on this team.
Right now I'm really questioning a couple of people.
Okay.
And one of the pieces that I think I do want on this team, and it's one that we've talked about before, and I think it really is Bryce Young. I mean, seeing his development in the back half of the season was really gave me a little bit of trust, more so than I had in previous seasons. And I think that I'm definitely on the bus with a guy like Bryce Young, and pairing him is going to be a little bit trickier, but maybe it's your Coker, maybe it's your Leggett. The reason I'm saying maybe not Leggett is because he's like starting to fly up some boards, and he hasn't really done anything to show that it's worth it.
See, I disagree about that. He hasn't shown anything part. He was a rookie last year.
No. I'm saying to show where that value is at in terms of like his position on the roster, right? So like,
he's their solid number 1.
He should be.
Well, when you look at Carolina overall, he is cemented that worst case scenario, he's their number 2 and he's out there every play. So you know that about Leggett before you even start. So that's my fear with Coker. Is Coker could get boxed out by either a free agent signing or more probably a draft pick. So Coker, I'm not sold at, but Leggett isn't going to come off the field. They were forcing the ball to him, and I really like I like Leggett's game. He's the one that I would like to have. So I'm totally cool with putting Bryce Young and Leggett on this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with that, but the one of the biggest things that makes Leggett like really hard to get is the fact that, if you are going after a guy like Bryce Young, you do have to kind of double dip one after the other on this. And if you're doing that, it really boxes out of certain strategies that we've been using recently. So if we are going out there and getting Bryce Young and Leggett a little bit later in the draft, I kind of do want to prioritize a higher level quarterback. Because I don't think it's advisable really. We've been going through all the, you can go through a quarterback later. But if you're trying to get Leggett and Bryce Young, you're kind of.
So what is the name you want to put on? Because we're all about pre-building this with the names. Who's the guy you need to make sure we get on this team, even if he's around early?
Okay, so I really like.
Let me write these down, by the way. Keep track of them. So we.
I really like. Hey, family, we're doing something different this episode. Don't put them in the chat. Why are you putting them in the chat?
I have a list of them.
Put that in private chat though. When I think the guy that I do want, if I'm chasing after a high end quarterback, and now again, this is going to be a little bit unique in terms of what we've been doing in recent weeks. But I do want to prioritize probably Josh Allen or Lamar, mainly because that they're the two players that you can build a stack with outside of because Daniels is really hard to stack up. And I think that, if I'm not prioritizing one of those big quarterbacks like that, then we might take our chances on going a maybe a ninth round into that zone of quarterbacks that I don't really like. Maybe a Bo Nix with a Mims, plus then going the next couple of rounds, with Young and with Leggett. It's really tricky. I'm also not fully faded on Baker Mayfield, depending on where his value comes in at, Joe.
If you want to do a Baker Evans force, we can put that in.
A Baker Evans stack would be pretty nice. And from information that I've heard that it's a very strong possibility that Godwin could return. And Godwin in the 5th or 6th doesn't sound too bad. Right. I know we love Jalen McMillan. I'm just talking about
Jalen McMillan.
I'm just talking about some guys here that I think would be fun to build a team around that we haven't built a team around yet. And the reason why I don't really like Josh Allen is because I'm not a huge fan of what Shakir's output is on a week-to-week basis. And Keon Coleman was such a volatile player this year. He should be able to perform better, but Keon could go a little bit later, maybe even undrafted for certain people. So I think that, a Josh Allen with a late stack could be a little bit more prudent, because if I'm thinking about who is taking Josh Allen kind of stacks for their game plan, they're most likely putting in Dalton Kincaid or Khalil Shakir. And I want to be a little bit different if in fact Josh Allen gets you to the promised land and you want to have a little bit other mustard for you.
Well, the cool part about the regular season one versus the best ball or versus the playoff one is you don't need to go as deep into the stacks with the regular season one. We only really need one or two.
And one that's kind of like one that you can get, but I'm not like super excited about. So I kind of want to avoid this one, Joe.
All right, it's an avoid.
I do want to avoid the San Francisco 49ers one.
Yeah, I like that.
With the Jawan. Although I like Jawan and I like Pearsall individually, I find them to be a little bit more difficult to stack with Purdy, because if you're doing that, you need to take two of them. And if you need to take two of them, you're not getting two of them, because all three
because you have to really commit to that. If you're doing the San Francisco, you have to really commit to it.
All right, three of those guys go at like the same time. So it's really hard to go out and get them.
So family, I would not take the backup quarterback if I take him in the 20th. What I'd much rather do is take another starter and like Fields to be able to do that. Someone who I can think put up high upside.
Yeah, because here's the thing. If Josh Allen goes down, there is no way in hell that Mitch Trubisky matches the output of Josh Allen. I mean, we saw a couple seasons ago of Tyler Huntley. He made the Pro Bowl scoop. But a couple weeks of him matching a little bit of the output of Lamar Jackson. But the reason these big guys are big is because they can put an output that is so out of this realm. The only guy you might want to think about, if you were playing this game, would be the Daniels to Mariota. Mariota's a guy that maybe can give you a couple.
I will never draft Mariota in a best ball. There's no value.
I'm just saying, if you wanted to.
But let's wrap up our list here
any reason
to know who we want. So you definitely want to have Bryce Young, Leggett, Baker, Evans, and Godwin. So that's 5.
Yeah.
Another guy that I personally want to have on the roster, and it's because I'm all about him. This actually, I think, would solve.
Please don't say Tyler Warren. Please don't say.
I am going to say Tyler Warren was going to be the first one, but
God don't.
Tyler Warren, if he was a receiver, would be the 3rd pick of this.
Oh my God, Joe, let's vary the exposure a little bit. All right. Vary the exposure a little bit. This is the one draft we're not going to have Tyler Warren in. Okay.
All right. So maybe we should do another one just with that. We'll make that Wednesday. Joe's not allowed to have draft. We'll put Tyler Warren first pick on that. Dude, I got to tell you, though, I'm so into Warren, it's not even crazy, though.
I know you are. You should have bought him a Valentine's Day present.
I did not that he might be my favorite Penn State player in the last decade. Because
Saquon Barkley came out in the last decade, so that
I didn't like him when he got drafted though.
I
something
did.
about the Giants ruining people.
Dude's a
But
dog.
anyway, on that note,
he's a dog.
On that note, so in terms
I will say
of,
this though. All right, I will say this: if we want to get stupid, and we want to get kind of sexy, stupid sexy, it's hard to,
the whole starting point is people you love that you think are going to blow up. Warren 100% qualifies in that department.
Okay, so I'm gonna lay this down. I knowing that I just said what I said about Baker Mayfield and I said what I said about Mike Evans, if all things are working out in the same capacity there, I'm not opposed to going out there and getting a guy like DJ Moore, depending on the players that are around there. One of the reasons why I say this is just because we're floating really high on the Ben Johnson train for all respective purposes, and this is going to be his first foray into a new team. I'm not saying that he could be a mom, but I'm saying that there is a real possibility that there are going to, and this is where I'm going to be a little bit different.
As long as you don't make me stack it, we can put DJ Moore on
this is team. Where I'm going to be a little bit different here. I don't necessarily want Caleb for the same reason that I didn't want Jared Goff, but I don't have an issue with either the 1 or 2 on the Chicago Bears. So if we can't go out and get Mike Evans and build a Baker stack, I am okay with an unstacked DJ Moore plus maybe Rome, somewhere in that vein. Because I'm not entirely out on the pass catchers as I am on Caleb as much, because Caleb's stats, if Caleb's putting up a good game, of course DJ Moore and Rome should be putting up a good game. But where I see this at is that there is a lot of touchdown upside in a guy like DJ Moore, just as there was touchdown upside in Keenan Allen. And it's not necessarily going to mean that Caleb Williams is throwing for 3 or 4 touchdowns. It means that DJ Moore's probably catching 1 or 2 with like 100 yards and a couple of catches. Okay. So I'm okay with a guy like DJ Moore as long as we're not trying to stack him with Caleb Williams. I know that
as long as Caleb Williams ain't on the team, I'm good with that. So at the end of the day, we're about to enter into the draft, and these are going to be the people we're going to force onto our roster come hell or high water.
Well, force?
No, that's the whole point of the show, Bob. The pros and the cons of the pre-built roster.
Big board,
Bryce Young, Leggett.
No, big board.
This is a big board. Correction. This is gonna be the little board because Bob and I are gonna fight during it, and I'm only we're doing a little board on this.
We want to fight. We want to argue.
We're gonna fight, and we put less money on the fights. They're just the way it is. So this is gonna be the little board.
No.
But that being said, we're gonna force Bryce Young, Leggett, Baker, Evans, Godwin, DJ Moore, and Adunze. That means that we're going to be very flexible on the running back side. Knowing we're forcing this many receivers also puts us into the available rounds to do the running backs here. So actually, guys, we're actually approaching our max on the big board too. By the way, we haven't fully hit it. I saw that comment come up there. So we are approaching that. We do these a lot like crazy. We're going to be creating sub accounts and all this fun stuff. What we really need is DraftKings to step up and do the same program.
But I want to address the situation, family. It's not that I'm going to be fading all the wide receivers if they come back, but I do think that that's a little bit of a boon for. I might be fading Bucky a little bit if Godwin comes back.
See,
because Bucky in the second round with a fully equipped wide receiver core, I think that Bucky will be a nice complement.
See, I don't think you fade Bucky because I think Bucky's still going to get the ball. He's their best running back. I think
I'm not saying that he won't. I'm saying that instead of fading the Tampa Bay wide receivers like McMillan, that I'd be more so a little bit down, maybe drafting Bucky in the third instead of pushing him up to the back end of the second. I think that all things considered, that Tampa Bay, even though they lost Cohen, should still be productive. and I'm willing to buy in onto that production. Because as we saw last year, Baker Mayfield is fully capable of putting up 30-point games. And if you can get a quarterback that's fully capable of putting up 30-point games, you have a very good shot to win in this kind of format. And in general, I think it's a good rule to have quarterbacks that are capable of 25 plus points. Yeah, Bucky is one of my favorite players right now in terms of guys I want to get. Godwin, like I said, Godwin will affect, I think, his value just a little bit, but not as much. But I would fade him just maybe a little. Like if I was deciding between Taylor or Bucky, I'd still be on Taylor. If I was deciding between Brees and Bucky, I'd still be on Bucky. If I was deciding between Josh Jacobs and Bucky, I might tend to err on Josh Jacobs' side. But a full-on Tampa Bay onslaught is nothing to like scoff at. That's won a few weeks in DFS. So, I mean, I could be on a full Tampa Bay onslaught. And I agree with you about Otton. Otton's production will go down with a fully healthy complement of wide receivers, but we weren't really targeting Otton this year in best balls. Again, he's one of those guys that I'm really kind of wishy-washy about when it comes to this year's best ball. What's up, Steve? Good to see you.
Love you, Steve.
What'd you do? I'm curious. How did you spend some of that money? Vegas? Going on a nice vacation? Going to Cancun?
Maybe going on a cruise?
Bucky and Achane, would you roll with both or move one for wide receiver? I'd keep both. Family, honestly, to tell you the truth, when I'm looking at Bucky and Achane, I mean, you're looking at potential touchdown upside through the roof. If they were to give Achane, if Tua were to be healthy and they give Achane a continuous role in the passing game, yeah, you're going to have down weeks. Steve could definitely tell you this about Achane. You're definitely going to have down weeks with Achane, but the up weeks are going to be really nice. And
they are.
And Bucky kind of could even kill you, because here's the thing about an offense like Tampa Bay's. Tampa Bay's offense is totally productive enough to support a guy like Bucky. And let's say Bucky doesn't go for 1,000 yards. He could definitely get 10 plus touchdowns in an offense that can move the ball like Tampa Bay's. So I am like, that's why Bucky's one of those high end guys, because that touchdown market for Bucky is so incredibly high. And, you know, we were down on Rachaad White over the past couple of years, deservedly so. He has no explosion, but again, he is one of those back end kind of running backs that if you do believe in Tampa Bay as a team, you do kind of want to go in through him.
And while we're talking about running backs, we're down on someone that you should definitely be down on in Dynasty, but in all assets is Pacheco. Pacheco, quite frankly, wasn't that talented of a running back when he started. There's at least 12 running backs entering the draft that are more talented than him. And you're going to be able to pick some of these guys up in the 5th round. So Pacheco is a guy definitely not worth investing in.
Yeah, in terms of this family, like, you know, you can be an incredible football player, but be completely a non-asset for fantasy purposes.
That's right.
And Otton, like, if you're blowing up guys and your coach sees that you can blow up guys, they may not use you in the passing game as much when they need to, but they will definitely use you if they're going to be running the rock. And Otton is one of those players that I think, you know, is one of the reasons why Tampa Bay can do the things that they can do, because he's good at a lot of different things. You know, having a tight end like that is very valuable. And a lot of teams are going out there right now and trying to find that tight end. And to Joe's point about Tyler Warren, teams are going to want to go out and get a tight end that's not just solely a pass catcher, that is a great blocker as well, can play inline, can play
on
slot.
That note, did you shoot down Warren being on this roster today or not?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Because you're going to take the only reason why is that
I'm okay with seeing where else he would land and where else Fields would land. I'm okay with that experiment.
Steve, this is glorious. Going out there, eating, drinking, all of it on a nice vacation. I've been looking forward to a nice vacation, but since we had my son, we can't get out of the house other than to go to Target. So, you know, it's
part of life.
We had to take him to Grandma's house the other day, because Grammy and Appy's house, because we wanted to go out and eat, and he won't sit still for more than like 25 seconds. So
no, that's part of having a 1-year-old.
He's just learning how to stand and walk. He's just learning how to do it. So we got to baby proof the house. It's going to be a chore.
So Bob, in terms of our roster here for forcing them in for ADP, most of them should be able to settle. We do have an issue here with the two Chicagos
Can you
and
pull
Mike
up the board?
Evans
You haven't pulled up the board yet.
because it's just starting right now.
All right, show it to us. So, guys, in the chat, what we're doing
we are not in the ideal starting spot.
we've taken a list of guys that we like, and we're going to try to push them through as to show you kind of the pros and cons of having that mindset that some people walk into and saying, "Hey, I want these guys. How can I build a team?
These guys need to be on my team.
How will it affect your output on a seasonal basis?"
So here's the short list of the players, the 7 that we wanted to force upon this team. DJ, and this is read in ADP order: DJ Moore, Mike Evans, Rome Odunze, Godwin, Baker Mayfield, Xavier Legette, and Bryce Young.
Joe, I'm gonna stop you for a second. Family, I never said it was hard. The one thing that I did say that was hard is finding time for date nights for the wife and I. The kid aspect of it, he's a great kid. He treats us well. Just trying to get him to eat now like more solids. But again, the only thing I complain about is that there's not enough time for the wife and I. So that's the one thing, because we didn't really do anything for Valentine's Day. We watched a movie, a really interesting movie from China. But just
movie pause till we get done with these picks. So realistically, Bob speaking, here's how we're going to have to build this team, because it's going to have to be Mike Evans and one of the Chicago receivers on the turn that's the 3rd and 4th round. We have to go 2 running backs in the first 2 picks, and one of them is going to be Ashton Genty.
I don't agree with you that we have to go 2 running backs with the first 2 picks.
Bob, we have 5 receivers we're locking in.
Joe, I want you to expand your imagination for a moment.
I'm a running back whore. I don't expand much.
I get it. I understand who you are. I get who you are. But I also get that if Brian Thomas Jr. is there, I really don't want to pass on BTJ. I'm okay with a guy like Genty. I'm perfectly fine with that.
Whoa, Mahomes going in the 1st round.
God damn. I hate when people do that. That is such
they're wasting their money, man.
Like, the Super Bowl's over, man. Super Bowl's over.
And that's the other reason we do these on Underdog, where there's real money on the table rather than Sleeper, by the way. So there actually is. So you'd rather have Thomas Jr.
Well, I mean,
I think we're going to be too light at running back.
Joe, if
I'm looking at realistically, the 3rd and 4th picks are going to be receivers.
Nico could be here too.
The 5th pick is going to be a receiver.
Joe.
So Minko and Thomas are the 2 highest on the board. So JT is the highest on the board. I just want to go Henry or A-Chain though in the 1st pick though.
Dude, you're killing me, dog.
I'll do Thomas. I'll do it, but this is going to be it's going to be hard to get that 2nd running back.
We'll be fine. I promise you, we will be fine.
But out of these backs of A-Chain, Henry, Genty, and McCaffrey, to me, it's Genty all day.
That's fine. I'm okay with something like that. And family, I feel that my son, we had to go take him to the doctors on Valentine's Day proper, and he got his shots, and that was fun. It's always
that was fun.
Always fun. So
I don't like that Malik Neighbors pick at all.
Yeah, if I'm keeping Saquon in the first round, and I want to go, who do I want to go in the 2nd round? I am thinking more and more about guys like T. Higgins. I'm also thinking it depends on where I'm sitting, right? Mm-hmm. There's going to be a veritable hodgepodge of wide receivers that is going to be taken. You just saw it right here. And it's going to be really hard. I don't think that I'm building Terry McLaurin unless I don't think I'm building Terry McLaurin so much. If I only have one opportunity,
Terry and Ladd are both getting overdrafted right now, and the Ladd is my boy and a half, but he should not be going in the 2nd round.
Yeah, if I'm going after a wide receiver, I'm definitely going BTJ or Nico. Amon-Ra is one of those guys that he always has the chance to really profit for you in PPR leagues, but I'm taking a step back on him in half PPR leagues. I think that his touchdown production, because Jameson Williams is back, and because Sam Laporte is there, and because Jahmyr Gibbs is there, is definitely it's high. His touchdown production output is really has the potential to be really high. We'll see what the Ben Johnsonless Lions does, but I do think that there is a high probability that he's going to just keep getting the same kind of production. So if you're willing to go with something safe like that, where he's not overly thrown to, but is used appropriately, sure. I mean, with your Saquon Barkley, it's very easy to kind of take a high floor player like Amon-Ra is. Nico, I think, has a little bit of variability to him too. Houston really needs to figure out their offensive line.
Yeah, and that's going to
really
be their priority.
their
I mean, when you look at Houston, their entire priority this offseason has to be building the offensive line and running the ball. They're in a spot where they do have the build that could be defensively, at least, copying the Eagles. What they need to get is that power running on their side to be able to really be able to handle it. What the hell is this guy doing?
I think this is going to be voided, to be honest with you. I think this draft is going to be voided, but it's still
they're not going to avoid it. I mean,
no, like void.
Yeah, they're not going to.
Depends on how the draft goes with players like this. I think that it happens, but we can completely.
You have to have like 4 of them doing it where it's blatant collusion. If there's just one guy being an idiot,
we can absolutely
very rarely get the void.
You know, that's
quite frankly, we had some last year that you would make the argument that we were so stupid you never should have done it.
Now, here's
like that draft we took last in the 3rd round.
Yeah, when we look at how to get out of this pod specifically, that first team, because of the way that the 4th team is drafting, that first team could be absolutely elite level wide receiver production.
Yeah, they're taking Burrow on the next turn.
The Saquon JT drafter is definitely going to be really, really interesting.
Hey, I want to talk about Garrett Wilson real quick, though. So the Jets are in a full-fledged free fall. They're not going to get rid of Wilson. They just said that.
Dude.
But they have basically no offense. This is also about Allen, too.
Rodgers better not come to the Steelers, man. I'm going to get
Allen. Rodgers is – but the point is Jets are trying to actively lose. Garrett Wilson is the only player on that team. I think he's going to mentally check out, and it's going to be a worthless. I think it's going to be a worthless year for the Jets. Aren't them all?
I think Wilson will be frustrated, but in the 3rd round, if I'm sitting there and I've already built out 2 really powerful running backs, and I'm probably not going to be touching running back again for at least several rounds if I'm that number 2 drafter. I'm
just saying I'd way rather have the Jigbud than I'd have Garrett.
Garrett Wilson, though, I like Garrett Wilson's potential because we saw when he is the guy that's the only guy on the field, he has the potential to go ham. Now the only question is who's going to be throwing the ball to him?
Someone who's going to suck.
Possibly
Milrow.
I actually think that Garrett Wilson has really good touchdown upside. Now, in the same vein as
how can you say that? I don't think they're going to have red zone potential, let alone touchdown potential.
You look at the third round there, and if Aaron Rodgers is I
don't see how the Jets are going to score this year. I think they have a chance of being a bottom 10 offense overall.
I'm not going to fight you there, but here's what I am going to fight you on, is that once Aaron Rodgers is out of the building for sure, the cronies are going to go too. So you're going to see less Alan Lazard, less Conklin, less all of this stuff. That made like Garrett Wilson not a predominant red zone threat because Lazard was still getting catches when he didn't need to get catches. So that's kind of where I'm at. And those 2 quarterbacks just went, so maybe we don't go after that high-end quarterback here.
Well, we can't. These picks need to be Mike Evans and one of the Chicago receivers. Again, we come in with the philosophy of a pre-built team.
Is this going to be an all-rookie running back room?
It's probably going to have to be. This pick is Mike Evans, and then whichever Chicago receiver is left.
Little back-end Rico Dowdle. I do.
You'll never see me draft Rico Dowdle. No. Rico Dowdle is going to get replaced by 2 players this offseason.
Guys, The reason I went with this strategy is so Joe can't draft Tyler Warren because he's going to be so nervous about the running back room that he's going to click 4 successive running backs in those mid
There's a
rounds.
very real chance of that. But in this point, I definitely, had we not pre-locked on Mike Evans, I would have taken the Jigba there. All right, Bob, we're only going to get Rome or more. Which one do you want?
DJ. Go DJ.
All right.
There's nothing against, I don't have anything against necessarily Roma Dunze, but I do like the targets that DJ Moore got last season. You've got to think that with Keenan Allen going away, that Rome's targets are going to go up. He's a bit younger. How does Ben Johnson treat Roma Dunze this year? Will he treat him in the same capacity of Jameson Williams? Will he treat that? How will this team look? Because I think the biggest thing about this team that they don't have that they need to go out and get is a running back that's consistent. DeAndre Swift is not worth their time. And
No,
I'm
he's
not.
not.
And I'm not going to I'm full fading. He's one of the guys I'm full fading that I will have zero stock of DeAndre
Totally
Swift.
fair. Legit. Makes sense.
I'll probably also have zero stock of Roschon Johnson because I do believe that they do want to go out there and get a running back this year. They have a lot of it. Yeah. They have other issues, but again, I think that targeting the
Chicago's biggest issue is under center. Yes.
And also the other thing is too, it's in a build like this, a Cole Kmet might not be terrible. Knowing what Ben Johnson did with Sam Laporta, having Cole Kmet there.
See, I don't think the two are comparable, athletically speaking. I just don't think that you can make that argument.
Oh man, he didn't get either of his Chiefs wide receivers for that stupid build that he's building right there at number 4.
Well, he got Hollywood. He's just not going to be there next year.
Well, no, he didn't get Xavier Worthy or Rashee Rice.
Yeah, I know. It's a very stupid.
I would have thought.
My bigger thing is, why was Trey Harris the first rookie receiver drafted?
Why in his mind? Because he's clearly out of his mind.
Trey Harris is not going before Tig.
Yeah, it's not. This guy's clearly a troll. Clearly a troll. But going
this doesn't how you troll correctly.
Going up to this comment here, with Hunt. Hunt gets no love in fantasy though. Numbers are on the board from this season, but can't ever deal him for even peanuts. No, you can't.
You're right. And that's not that good.
Hunt's one of those players that he'll be productive. And we did say that he'd be productive for a period of time. And then for some reason, the Chiefs are just like, okay, we're just going to not run the ball at all. You saw in the Super Bowl, they ran like 9 times. Was
the Chiefs' real reason they couldn't run the Super Bowl is they couldn't block. I mean,
well, okay, so hold on. So he finally goes after a pick that is like realistic, and he takes our boy from last year, Debo, who I'm very curious. So I'm very curious
to see if Debo gets traded in real life.
How Debo is like actualized this year, because
I don't think he's going to stay in San Francisco.
The value
he's also not going to get cut.
The value of Debo is in the gadget, and I'm just not sure what team out there right now wants to go out there after not a full-fledged wide receiver, not a full-fledged running back, but simply a guy who's able to make plays. And I'm not sure that he can continue to make plays behind offensive lines that aren't good. And I'm not sure that a team with a good offensive line is going to invest the money that Debo wants into Debo.
Well, this is the thing. Let's do a little dive on Debo here. If you trade for him, his base salary is under $2 million. So basically anyone can get them if they pay the price to make it worthwhile for San Francisco. Yeah. Estimated to be about a 4th or a 5th rounder. So I would love to see Debo in a place like Atlanta. I think that he could really tear it up. It would really show how overrated London is. I think that would be fantastic.
Team 5 is directly benefiting from whatever bullshit's happening in Team 4.
You can make an argument we all are.
You have Bijan, Ladd, Bucky, and Jane Daniels. And while I really liked
I think Ladd, I don't think Ladd is going to be worth a 2nd rounder.
Well, I like Team
So we're just talking about troll time. Build. I don't think Ladd's worth a 2nd rounder. I don't think Garrett Wilson's worth a 3rd. Or
we were really high on Ladd. We were really high on Ladd to begin the offseason.
Yeah, but we were also high on him when he was an 8th round pick. Just like we are on Warren right now.
No. We took Ladd at the beginning of the 2nd in one of our drafts, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and then you yelled at me for that entire draft because my auto pick went off the wrong spot.
But anyway, family, the Cincy stack is nice. If T comes back, that team is going to be really, really, really good. I like the stability in the running back room for team number 5, though. He's been gifted a couple players from team 4, definitely. Team 6 has an interesting build going with both of the Philly wide receivers. I would not build both Philly wide receivers because I don't believe that Jalen Hurts will be able to support both wide receivers there. This Brock Bowers team taking Chuba a little bit early, there's a little discrepancy there, but Xavier Worthy and Puka can definitely put up 30-plus points.
So, Bob, approaching our pick here on our turn, I have 4 running backs I will gladly take. For the sake of this episode, I'm going to push Godwin. I think I'd be able to get him on the other side at 62, but I'm going to push him here at 59 to make sure he's on the roster to be true to what we're doing here. And then on the other side, like I said, I have 4 running backs, 3 which are rookies, that I would be willing to take on the comeback.
All right.
So this pick's going to be Godwin, and then those 4 running backs are Kenneth Walker the third.
Why don't you take Kenny Walker now?
Because I got to take Godwin to make sure he's here. I'm being true to what we're doing.
This other guy doesn't have a lot of running backs, so I don't know.
He has the same amount as us, but I'm taking Godwin because he's the number 1 receiver on the board.
Okay, all right.
So I'm taking him to be true to our system. And plus, I have 4 running backs I'm willing to take with the next pick, whether it be Kenneth Walker, Hampton, Caleb Johnson,
two
or
tight
Travion
ends.
Henderson.
All right, I like what you're going with.
Who's your preference?
Who do you think's going to be a day 1 starter in the NFL?
I think all 4 of them are.
That's my preference.
I think all 4 of them are.
Caleb Johnson's awesome. I have nothing wrong with him.
Well, then he'll be the pick.
Yeah,
I 100% think all 4 will be starters. So
yeah,
Caleb Johnson's your dude. That's our dude.
Any of these. All right, now this is getting a little bit sexy. I mean,
our next pick will be Baker, by the way.
Joe, Baker could probably go to the 8th, Joe, to be honest with you.
Dude, ADP wise, I'm going to take him just because the young guy doesn't have a quarterback. But again,
this guy
in the turn.
Reading the room on this guy in the 12 spot, I don't think he's going to take a quarterback. He took double tight ends. He seems to be a little bit of a wild card, taking taking perceived value to get a one-upsmanship, and I don't see him taking Baker Mayfield. I'm willing to.
I think he might when he sees that we have Godwin and Evans.
Maybe.
I also think he's a savvy like that.
Maybe. This is a very sexy-ish team. Despite having, even with having, I'm not even going to say despite, in spite of having, what you feel are kind of wild cards in the running back room, we have 3 wide receivers that have in their careers at one point in time have been solid 1,000-yard guys.
Oh yeah,
with high catching.
This might be the highest floor team we've ever built, or at least since the Super Bowl.
With high catching outputs on teams that they are very much, at least with DJ Moore and BTJ, the team's number 1 wide receiver. That will probably change with Rome Odunze just a little bit. I mean, I'm liking this team right here.
I am too. The fact I'm not allowed to put Warner on it means we're 100% doing backfill tight end, which I'm fine with. We've made some good
Caleb Johnson. Took Caleb Johnson, but I do like your take on Kenny Walker. While I'm not a huge Ken Walker guy going into this season, I do think that the movement on from Grubb as the offensive coordinator will directly benefit the running game, because so many times this season, Ken Walker did not get enough carries. Remember, we were talking about this season where at one point in time he had 99 carries, where other running backs were at like 140. Yeah. He was only injured like 1 or 2 games, but he wasn't getting the looks. And that wasn't because Zach Charbonnet is like great. It's just because he wasn't getting the looks because they just stopped running the ball. Mm-hmm. And when you stop running the ball, I mean, you're just like asking for nonsense to happen. Who the hell is Brady Cook? Screw this guy at number 4, just like handing people picks. I mean, I know it's a trickle down effect, but I mean, he's immediately handing both of the guys on the opposite side of him picks. And that is so annoying.
Well, it does trickle to us as well, but that is a very good question, Bob. Who is Brady Cook? You want to Google him real quick?
What'd you say?
You want to Google him real quick?
Do I want to Google him?
Yeah,
No, he's probably.
I have no idea where he's even at. He's not in the top 7
like,
quarterbacks of rookies.
Oh, hold on. My computer's internet.
Mizzou?
Is he from Mizzou? I don't know. He's probably not going to be on an active roster next year. He is from Mizzou.
Love that I pulled that out of my ass.
I mean, if you're going to take somebody from Mizzou, like, not him. Chase Daniel. I love Chase Daniel, though. Dude, this dude was 11 touchdowns, 2 interceptions last year. This guy's just a troll, and I kind of love it, but I kind of hate him at the same time.
As long as you're in a happy place, Bob. All right, so we're going to have now basically 3 open picks.
Nice.
After we take Baker, Bob, we'll have 3 open picks. Right now, the roster is built with 4 receivers, 2 running backs. Ideally, I'd like this to be Baker and value. I'm just not totally sure I'm seeing value anywhere that we like, unless we put Jalen McMillan in here as well.
Yeah, that would be a full-on Tampa Bay onslaught minus Bucky Irving. I'm
not sure I want to do that. I'm not sure that has the value. I love Ayuk.
That could be interesting. I mean, this is definitely going and taking Baker a little early. So,
well, Baker's ADP is 89, and we'll be taking him at 83. So it's not dramatically early.
So not dramatically high. I'm definitely okay with that.
It's
and
Baker.
This goes.
See, I wouldn't mind taking Parasol in the comeback, though.
Yeah. Like I said, I kind of want to avoid those wide receivers, but if Parasol's
fair enough. Let's look at the running backs that are on the board here are Jaylen Warren, who I do believe will have an upside year. Because he was hurt all last year. He was one of the guys that we really dinged due to injury, and we were correct on that. Aside from him, the only other guy out there is Aaron Jones and Stevenson. Or we can go Parasol or McMillan.
Go after the wide receiver.
McMillan it is. All Tampa, all the time.
This has gone off the rails quickly, and I love it. Absolutely.
But we're holding true to us, which is what I like about it. So we're going to have 2. Our next 2 picks are not committed, because we should be able to get Leggett and Young at 131, which is exactly Leggett.
I agree with this family. I absolutely
and 134.
So again, we went into this draft, just so everybody who's tuning in now, we went into this draft pinpointing a couple of guys that we wanted to include on this team. And now the reasoning for showing you this strategy is just saying, what happens around you, and with this mindset that I go into, and I say, okay, I have definitely guys that I want, and we picked out 8 guys.
The only one we didn't get on this roster, by the way, is
Lamar. Well, Lamar Odunze, because we
well, the list was too greedy.
Yeah, we're definitely, family, we're definitely in trouble here too a little bit. We need to pound at least 3 or 4, 3 most likely more running backs
easily.
And this is why I said to Joe,
rookie time, baby,
that you're gonna probably get us with maybe a Najee coming up this round.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe. You could see yourself walking maybe into a Cam Scatterby or a Tank Bigsby. I like Tank Bigsby potential. Especially knowing
I like Bigsby too.
But here's why.
I also like Devin Neal, whose ADP is right next to Bigsby.
Here's why I kind of like Bigsby a little bit is because we see what Cohen
ETN getting faded.
No, we see what Cohen did with Tampa. And they have 2. Tampa had Rachaad White and Bucky, and we were just singing praises on Bucky. Is the reasoning why Tampa has a good offensive line and Jacksonville doesn't necessarily have a great offensive line, but will it be an expectation that the 2 running backs will be more of a platoon or a role dependent kind of thing than they have been in the past?
Well, even if they keep the same rule dependent, ETN is not good at the goal line, and Bigsby is.
So there's a little bit of touchdown upside. I like kind of Tank Bigsby coming up.
All right, so I'd be cool with Bigsby being one of the 2.
If he's the best running back on the board.
Well, see, here's the thing. I don't believe the best running backs on the board right now are even close. Aaron Jones, Pacheco, Stevenson, Dobbins, Etienne.
Well,
I don't want any part of those 5, and they're the top 5 on the
Stevenson
board.
is going to lose his job. It's not even a question in my mind. He's already lost his job.
Which one's that?
Stevenson. He is another full fade. Add him to the full fade list.
And Dobbins and Etienne are in my full fade too.
He is useless. I'm not fully fading Etienne, but I am fully fading Stevenson. And
I'd rather have Bigsby than Etienne.
I mean, Etienne, going back, I want to go back and look at Stevenson's best year. I believe it was around 1,000 yards. But he's garbage. Absolute unequivocal garbage. His biggest year was he eclipsed 1,000 yards. The guy doesn't score rushing touchdowns. Maybe that improves coming up this year, but he lost 6 fumbles last year. And I don't see how, as a coaching staff, a new coaching staff in Vrabel and stuff, how you can go out and not get a running back.
Well, the argument is you only have so many resources, and you just paid him last year.
Still, they might move the ball a little bit better, but if you're fumbling 6 times as a running back and not eclipsing 1,000 yards, and you're playing 15 or so games, I just don't see the potential for Stevenson.
Oh, yeah. No, 1,000 yards is not the line it used to be.
There goes Tyler Warren, 9th round. Not bad.
Yeah, well, first pick of the 9th round. So basically,
all the keys go everywhere. All the keys are going everywhere. There goes Pacheco, too. Bo Nix and Caleb Williams. Okay. An unstacked Bo Nix and an unstacked Caleb. Okay. That's weird. I wouldn't do that.
Well, Purdy got Parasol, so that's at least a connection there. All right, Bob. So
Jared Goff, I think. Is
basically, here's your choices: Najee, Tank, Devin Neal, and Scatterboo.
All right, I would take either Najee or Tank, and then maybe one of the rookies on the comeback, whatever one is there.
I think I'm going to take Najee though because he's going to get paid more.
Okay.
You don't want that. You really don't want that. Tank it is.
Family, this is the way. I mean, you're going to see so much analysis out there of why it's smart to take a Brock Bowers or Trey McBride. And I'm not going to fight you on the skill of those players, because we talked about this last week. But I am, just positionally, I am so very much satisfied with some of the back end options at tight end here.
We're going to take 4 of them though this time. We're going to take 4.
Even if you
Becky will be one of them.
Even if you don't, Joe, you could get Najee here too. You don't have to take a rook.
I can't get Najee. You just went.
Yeah, that sucks. Sucks.
I'm okay with Devin Neal.
Okay.
I like him more than Scatterboo. So, I do think Scatterboo's the absolute peak if Scatterboo maxes out is being Monty.
So
I think that's his absolute best case scenario as a comp is to become Monty. I'm just not guaranteeing it.
All right.
So next picks will be Leggett and Bryce.
Okay, I'm on board with that because that's around where his value is.
That's 100% Leggett's ADP to the pick.
But Bryce Young is probably going to get picked, so we're probably not going to.
Well, Bryce Young is actually around after Leggett in terms of current ADP.
All right, so here we go. I'm just kind of trying to look up here. Just going on Bleacher Report right now, just kind of seeing where people are thinking these landing spots for some of these rookie running backs are. Bleacher Report, Dallas, Miami, Denver. If Genty goes to Dallas or Denver, I'd be very satisfied if he goes to Dallas. Denver, not so much. Let's go down here.
Every carry though.
Caleb. If Caleb Johnson goes to the Vikings, I'll be very satisfied. If he goes to the Dolphins or the Niners, not so much. Miami, maybe. Let's see here. Penn State's guy going up on the board. Taj Brooks, Rutgers guy, Brashard Smith.
So with Juwan Johnson being a free agent, do you lean more into him because he's a free agent? He'll be able to pick his own spot.
No, I mean, when it comes to the tight end wagon, you guys know how I feel about tight ends, and Jawan Johnson's been too hurt for him to be very viable,
Fair enough.
especially in best ball leagues.
And you guys do know that's a position I don't take rookies in is tight ends, with the
Well, you
exception
do.
of Warren.
You
That's how big I am on Warren.
You take Warren. Yeah, guys, that does show how big he is on Warren, is that he does not like rookie tight ends. You can go back at every single episode that we have, and he hates rookie tight ends. Not hates, but knows that they have a challenge in order to be productive.
It's one of the longest positions to develop. It's like that in middle linebacker.
I need to look up something here.
All right, so I got back end tight end Phil. They'll be decent. We're gonna be looking at Sanders from Carolina, Gesicki, Stennett, and Disley. Will be
I definitely like Gesicki. I mean, will he move on? I don't know.
If he doesn't move on, his draft stock should skyrocket. If he stays in Cincinnati and Higgins leaves, he arguably should be in this same neighborhood of Njoku. I mean, I'm 100% convinced that's Gesicki.
So here's one of my things about running back rooms, right? So I'm just pulling this from the web here, and just going after and saying, okay, who could use a running back? We have Cowboys, Raiders, Browns, Bears, maybe the Chargers, Broncos,
no, definitely
Steelers,
the Chargers,
Steelers and Vikings, and you ask yourself, how many rookie running backs are out there and how many situations are available?
This is the best running back draft we've had in a very long time.
Maybe, we've been talking about Chase Brown as being a guy that may or may not lose some of his carries, some of his looks.
Chase Brown's losing his looks when Zach Moss comes back healthy. They're both getting beaten out by a rookie.
Let me ask this though, Joe. How many rookie running backs is kind of, because we have 3 right now. How many is too many when we consider that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 situations?
I think there's more than 8 because you didn't say Cincinnati.
Okay, so that's 9.
There's plenty of them that also have situational goal line touches. Like if Scatterboo goes to Buffalo, Scatterboo will be a beast.
Do you think the Commanders take a running back?
I absolutely think the Commanders take a running back.
And do the Chiefs?
Yes. The Chiefs should take 2.
But do you want
the Chiefs need to rebuild their whole offensive line?
Do you want a Chiefs running back is just a question. It does feel like
when Andy Reid has a real running back, he's amazing with them.
It does
feel to me it's a bigger testament to how bad Hunt and Pacheco really are.
In terms of situations,
Houston needs a running back.
Where do you hope our rookie running backs go to that we drafted? So
if Caleb Johnson goes in the first round to Denver because Boise goes to Dallas, that is like the greatest starting point. I mean, it just is.
And Najee could go to Dallas too.
Najee could go to Dallas. Dallas doesn't really have the cap money to be able to. They have to draft him. Najee doesn't have, or Dallas is in cap issues. Plus, they need to pay parking, so they can't be spending it on new guys.
And again, like I said, New England's going to need a running back too. Is that a good situation?
No, that's anything in New England's bad.
I'm not sure.
I am.
Allie, what's up, man? Let me see your team here. Love JD. Gibbs and Bijan, that's a hell of a 1-2 punch there. I really do feel like Gibbs and Bijan, they have 2 of the stronger offensive lines in terms of the run game. It's going to be, I think that has a good chance to be the 30-ish, 35 touchdowns between the 2 of them, maybe a little bit more. Puka, love Puka. Ali, how I feel about Marv. Maserati Marv is more of like a Ford Fusion right now to me. And that is not because of his skill set. It's because of the way this team uses Marv.
It's Kyler Murray. It's called the way it is.
They could upgrade him by upgrading the game plan, by upgrading the way that they play against certain defenses. But I just don't see them changing much. So
Kyler Murray has not intellectually developed.
For me, I'm off Marv, in drafting Marv. But in terms of like, if I have him right now, he is one of those pieces that I could sit on. But you're sitting on what could be another year of disappointment, because the question is, do you see a lot changing in Arizona? And to be honest with you, it doesn't seem like there's going to be much change in Arizona.
No.
So from an offensive play calling standpoint, maybe they do better, maybe. And in best ball, if I can get him in the fourth, fifth round, sure, I'd be thinking about taking him. But in terms of your selection here, he's one of those guys that I could probably move on for some picks. Love T. Joe was talking about T Higgins last year, and about the narrative that could be written about T. But T is in alpha. If he goes to Washington, or if he stays in with the Bengals, the only thing holding him back is injuries. He could be at least a 12 touchdown kind of guy. The skies really is whatever T's fingers and toes tell him it is. DK, I think that DK is another smash kind of pick this year. When it comes to what I said earlier about Grubb and the passing, I think that they were overly feeding the ball last year in the passing game. And I think a more balanced attack does benefit a guy like DK Metcalf, because, receivers are running a lot. And if you're constantly passing the ball, you're never getting a break. So a guy like DK that could get injured like that and maybe misses a couple of games a year wouldn't really benefit from that kind of play style. And I think that he was kind of submarine with that this year. And the emergence of JSN is nothing to scoff at, but I think that if you're holding DK as your fourth wide receiver, that's really, really hell of a good pick. But again, you could move him. He is movable. Ayuk, I also think is movable. Joe will tell you maybe a little bit of a different narrative about Ayuk, but I'm not a big fan of Ayuk this year.
I am.
And McBride, I think you're not giving him up. We talked about the reasons why McBride is such a solid guy when you like this past year. And having 4 2026 first round picks is nothing but fantastic. Family here, DK plus a 2026 first for a stud wide receiver. That's always a great possibility. I think out of all these guys, DK probably gives you, out of those wide receivers, I think that out of the ones you would want to move, DK gives you a lot of value, unless people believe in Marv. I think that more people believe in DK than Marv. Made these 2 big trades. Let me know how you feel. Gave up Saquon, McMillan, and a 2026 first for Bijan and DK. Brock Bowers for a 2026 first and McBride. So, when you look at it, so top 3 pick. So I really like Saquon. But I think if you are going to go into any running back that's not named Saquon Barkley, that the smart decision is to go into Bijan. They very clearly made it a narrative for the team in Atlanta to go after running, to go and play Bijan the way that Bijan needed to be played. And getting DK out there is great. I might have kept Jalen McMillan, but with the news of Chris Godwin, I can see why you moved him. So I think that I'm a push on the first trade. And family, Brock Bowers and McBride, for me, from a stat sheet perspective, are close, with Brock Bowers having more of a first read target share. So that I think Brock Bowers kind of wins out in that debate. But getting back a 2026 first that you gave up prior to go into McBride, I don't think it's a big fall off. So all things considered, I think they're actually pretty good trades, with the value of the 2026 first being where kind of you're going to make up value at there.
All right, Bob. So if Trey Benson's still on the board here, he's who I'm going to pick.
Speaking of shitty Arizona,
he's by far the highest rated one.
I got you, Ali. Yeah, but I think when we look at all those players, that it might be a push in terms of
the iOS or Coker. That's pretty much what we're looking at, Bob.
Ooh, you can take Benson. That's fine.
Well, we'll need an answer on the comeback.
Well, you want a wide receiver on this comeback?
I don't necessarily know if I want a wide receiver. Here's who's my short list is for this pick: Dylan Sampson, Ollie Gordon, Algier, iOS, or Coker.
Hunter Henry's there, right?
I'm not taking Hunter Henry.
Let's take Coker, build out that Bryce Young just a little bit more. I know you said, you're kind of down on Coker, and you're absolutely right. But I don't think that I'm.
Yeah, I mean, he'll still be on the roster. I mean, he'll be their
Yeah, I
number
don't think
3 or
I'm
whatever.
in on an aging feeling though. To be
All right,
honest.
so for the record, Bob, we wanted to see when
Ooh.
Justin Fields would go 14-3.
Okay. All right. So you didn't go Fields. We didn't push Fields this time.
Well, no, he was on the list of people I wasn't allowed to draft.
Okay. But we didn't push him, and he went 14th round. So that's
Yeah.
kind of where to look it out at.
And Warren went in the 8th round, just like we've been saying. So
yeah, so Warren in the 8th. Like I said, my only problem with Warren though is that his value has gone down the more he has gone up.
Well, that's true with anyone who rises.
But I do think that people are going to push Warren for the same narrative that they're looking for the next Brock Bowers. And while you believe he is the next Brock Bowers,
I do.
There are so many people out there that don't believe that he's the next Brock Bowers. And so
it only takes one who does.
I do feel that, like, it's pushing a little bit high. Looking there in the 13th round, all those tight ends going, I think that's kind of par for the course, that we're going to start seeing that a lot more. People are going to get a little bit worried they don't have a tight end yet. Again, tight end numbers are so erratic that these guys here are no different really about the potential than a couple guys later. You said you wanted to target Gesicki, Joe.
Yeah. So I got the end of the draft lined up. It's just, are we okay with only the quarterbacks being Baker and Bryce? And I guess we should have figured that out before Coker, because Fields is the one I normally put in there.
I'm willing to take a chance on here. Hold on. Let me, when the board refreshes.
Here's your quarterbacks left.
Shedeur didn't go yet.
Shedur's left.
Maybe we go with Shedeur. Maybe we go Jackson Dart. People are really booing up Jackson Dart in recent looks.
They are. Here's my problem with
Raiders.
Dart. Let me break this down.
He could go to the Raiders.
We have an educated audience that knows stuff, and I want you guys to tell me if you think I'm crazy or not. Jackson Dart is a one-read quarterback with a coach that 8 games out of his 12 is the smartest person on the field. And that's legitimately true. Say what you want about Lane Kiffin. The guy knows offenses. And he sets up Dart with amazing, easy reads. And yes, give Dart credit. He puts the ball where it needs to be. But I've never seen him actually have to read. And quarterbacks that don't read don't perform unless they can run around like their former shortstops. Looking at you, Kyler Murray. So
I
don't
see where
think
you're going.
Dart has sustainable options.
I see where
because
you're going.
Again, I'm sorry, this might be a little profiling. I don't trust the Ole Miss education for teaching him how to read.
That's actually a funny take. That's actually a really funny take.
I'm fine with Shedeur and then either the iOS or Mason. Because I do think Mason's the starting running back in San Francisco when it all comes done. And I think McCaffrey gets moved to the slot.
I'm going to say this. I think we need to prioritize Gesicki coming up.
Dude, Gesicki's ADP is 205.
Okay, that's fine.
I have the final picks left. It's just pick here.
That Derek Carr pick
is the one I don't have set. So if you want this to be Shedeur, I'm fine with it.
That Derek Carr pick's really interesting because before he got hurt, he was kind of lighting it up. And I remember us talking week 1, week 2 about Derek Carr. If they can get an offensive line in front of him, I think that the Saints could be okay. And Derek Carr back here in the 15th round is really, really interesting. Don't like that Geno Smith pick. But with Shedeur, Bryce Young, and Baker, we got a little bit of old, little bit of young, all with high upside potential. I'm talking like plus 23 points a week potential between those 3 guys. And the reason why I'm not leaning so heavily into, we want Baker to be more productive here. But again, building out that back end potential Bryce Young stack, I think is pretty solid too.
I like the Bryce Young stack. We're about to add the 4th piece to it.
Yeah. Henry nearly coming back. Yeah, I would have really liked Hunter Henry. Henry is a touchdown kind of hog.
See, again, you have to be a team that scores touchdowns. And I just don't have any faith in New England at all.
I have a little bit of faith.
I
I have
don't
a little bit
understand
of
why.
faith. Isn't that a little early on Jatavion?
Jatavion's ADP is 191, which would have been the end of the 16th round. I took him at the beginning of the 16th round.
Okay. I mean, that's a little, I mean, okay. I'm okay with that.
And then it's going to be Gesicki, or Mason and Gesicki, I guess. It basically comes down to this. Would you rather have Mason or Tootin? And I love Tootin as a prospect,
So
but I think he's going to get drafted too late to matter.
Here's a funny thing.
So I think I'm going to take Mason.
I'm just reading about a little bit of Jackson Dart because you have me curious, just with the Mississippi education system. 34, this comes from Fantasy Life. 34.2% of Dart's attempts went to wide open wide receivers.
There you go.
And that's probably not going to happen in the NFL.
That's a testament to Lane Kiffin, though. I mean, that's Lane. Lane is very good.
His primary read was the left slot. So I'm just curious. I'm really curious if he goes to a team like the Jets, for example, and his only read is Garrett Wilson. How much does Garrett Wilson get the ball? Is he getting the ball like 12, 13 times a game? A la the Mike White era of Garrett Wilson. I'm just deadly curious because if that's the case, again, they're not going to be like stellar targets, but Garrett Wilson can get open.
That's true.
And if he's wide open, then Jackson Dart is going to throw him the ball.
But here's the problem: is these guys who get used to college open and pro open tend to get too scared to throw it. And the next thing that I do want to put out there is a little preview of what Wednesday's show is going to be. Wednesday, we're going to be talking about teams that are probably going to go down the route of building their NFL roster, of putting it all on their offense to outscore their deficient defense.
Yeah.
And there's two primary examples that are jumping to the top of the page right now, which are the Bengals and the Dolphins. Both of their defenses are basically walking out the door via free agency, and they really don't have enough money to bring them back. So that will be a little preview of Wednesday's show, guys. Also, make sure you click like and subscribe to be there with us.
So Ollie and family, I do think that I don't think you're getting back Saquon. You traded him away. I don't think there's going to be a pick number that guy's going to want in order to get Saquon away. Again, I think you're probably going to have to revisit a Saquon trade after you guys draft this year to see kind of where his team will be at. But when it comes to first round picks, I would offer 3 or 4 for CD because I don't think that, I mean, again, CD had a perfectly good enough season, not a first round caliber season. He had a perfectly good enough because, he was the guy that got all the targets. And I think that if I'm going out there and getting an elite caliber guy, that he has to be. So you went out and you got a couple of first round picks, you traded a couple away. He has to be worth it. And I think, CD's definitely in that category of worth it. Amon-Ra, I'd probably do 3 for CD. Like you said, you offered 4. I think it's absurd that guy declined that because 4 first round picks in 2026 is definitely there for me. And, unless he thinks that he has a chance to be in the championship this year, I think that's a little wild. I might, with the Michael Penix Atlanta Falcons, I might try to maybe do something like 2 picks plus something for a guy like London. I think that's an interesting kind of proposition. I don't think that London makes your team any better in the wide receiver category room, though, so you might not want to do that. You're not getting a guy like BTJ or Neighbors. I don't really know what you could move into necessarily. I think that's an interesting thing there, Joe. I know you like DK a lot more than you like London, but it does feel like the situation for Atlanta is going to get better this year, that Michael Penix is a capable quarterback. The line is good. Bijan is good. All things considered, 2 firsts. I think I wouldn't offer DK though, but I think it's an interesting proposition. I think I might just do the picks for London. and see how the chips fall on that, and see what he offers back. Yeah, London. DK is a really, yeah. DK is one of those players that if he's going to be an add-on, I want to go out there and get something really, really, really head and shoulders above everything else. Maybe you could go out there and upgrade at another running back spot. I'm not sure. But yeah, London for 2 picks, I think would be a fair beginning. If he asks for 3 picks back, I'd do that. Makes it a little bit more comfortable to move DK if you do decide to move DK. It's also very easy for you to then bench Ayuk or move Ayuk. Something along those lines. And it's also one of those things that if you go out and get London, you are most likely going to start Drake London over Marvin Harrison Jr. probably every week if it's 2 wide receivers. And if it's 3 wide receivers, you're probably going Puka, London, and T. Wouldn't you agree with that, Joe?
Sorry, I'm having this little mental debate about am I actually going to draft De'Ami Brown?
Again, I don't think he's a bad pick, but he might not be. We
need to spin it more.
He might not be on Washington's.
Yeah, he's not on Washington. I don't know if he's going to be worth it.
I'm not really sure.
He has the talent level of a 3.5, a 3 or a 4.
Somebody could pay him. I mean, you could see maybe the Dolphins don't trust Malik Washington and they go out and pay De'Ami Brown. Denver has a lot of young guys that maybe they're not too sure on a couple of players. Arizona's wide receiver room is kind of weird. Tennessee Titans need another wide receiver.
Yeah, but my problem is, again, his talent level is still a 3, maybe a 4. He's just had a great situation. And I don't think that situation's going to hold up. So I think it's the better thing not to take him.
Joe, if you could trade Marv and 2 firsts for CD,
I would do that.
You would do that. Would it be enough for you if you were the person that owned CD? Would that be enough for you to sway your opinion?
Dynasty, right?
Yeah.
I would do that. I would do that on both sides.
You would do that on both sides? I think that's great. Even spread out over 3 years. Yeah, I mean, if I was offered 4 first-round picks for CD, I would click it. I love CD, but
after 4 first-round picks for virtually anyone, I would click it.
Yeah, I would click that. That's kind of crazy. He must really love CD.
There's your dart.
Yeah, I'm not completely sold on Ben Sinnott's role, but what I am sold on is the fact that Zach Ertz probably won't be back, and so there's a very high likelihood that Sinnott will get more targets this year. And if you're betting that he's going to get more targets, those targets are probably going to line up in the red zone pretty significantly with the way that they've been playing, at least at the back half of this year. So I think that there's a really high, getting Sinnott this late. I mean, Sinnott could be what people are, statistically speaking, could be what people are looking for in this tight end realm, and they're just forgetting about him. I mean, granted, not exceptional rookie year by any means, but
most rookie years aren't exceptional. He had the average rookie year.
Sometimes some of these forgotten rookies can, when the situation provides it, can be more successful. I do like Sinnott more than Noah Gray this year. I know that's an interesting take because people are assuming that Noah Gray is just going to take on the role of Travis Kelce, and he very well could be, but that doesn't mean that he's going to be incredibly successful, especially seeing what Kansas City does. Kansas City has so many wide receiver options and so many options on the field.
There's so many problems on the offensive line. It might not matter.
Yeah, that Noah Gray might not be the value that people are looking for right now. Yeah. If it were super flex, 4 first-round picks for Josh Allen. Yeah, I mean, it depends on where I'm at in my dynasty build. Like if I'm pushing for the championship, maybe I wouldn't move Josh Allen for 4 first-round picks. But again, people were considering. I remember on the show we were talking, about is it a good idea to move Josh Allen into Jaden Daniels after Josh Allen's bad games that he had this year? And some people did do that, and it paid off for some people. And some people stood pat on Josh Allen, and Josh Allen carried them through to the promised land with those 40, 50-point games. But again, Jane Daniels performed well too. I am really, if I'm getting 4 first-round picks, I think I would definitely do any of that. Josh and Jalen Hurts is a good combination, Joe. Especially if you're looking in the touchdown markets, both those guys are going to continue to be insane producers. When it comes down here though, Joe, for the last couple of rounds, I know I like your Tootin. You got your Tootin.
I love his speed.
You got your Gesicki. You got your boys.
Well, I got the tight end back. I've done enough of the tight end backfield to know who I want and who I got.
Absolutely, family. You are win now. It sucks too that Hurts got hurt that one game, where it was really played a role into what people's playoff futures were. I'm just curious. I continue every year, Joe. I continue to be curious about Keaton Mitchell and why Baltimore just doesn't consistently use him.
Because he's actually a very good comp to Tootin. He's just incredibly fast, but he's breakable. They both have a little bit of a fumble issue. So, Bob, here's how this roster ended up today. You can make an argument that quarterback is the weakest spot.
Disley. I don't like the Disley pick because I do think that they're going to go after a tight end.
Well, we'll see. It's the last pick in a 20-round draft. So our quarterbacks.
Before we get to that, Joe, look at this. This is a win if there ever was a win in the universe before. Going out there paying 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and T-Law for Hurts and Evans. That's some foresight right there, family.
When'd you do that?
This was earlier. But T-Law, there's been I was reading on Reddit that it was actually a joke too. That was like, okay, the Steelers reached out to talk about T-Law, and the joke is that the staff of the Jaguars was just like, hey, yeah. Steelers call, hey, it's T-Law available, and they're like, no. Oh, okay, thanks. That kind of like sums up how I feel the Steelers operate. They go out and look at everybody. There's this meme that goes around Steelers Reddit a lot of what was it? I think like Ayuk at the airport or something like that. And it's like all the time now, any player tied to the Steelers. It feels like the Steelers are tied to every player, but I'll tell you this. Like when it comes to quarterbacks, I don't want Steelers to go out and get T-Law. I don't want the Steelers to go out and get Rodgers. They either need to keep Fields and use Fields, or they need to go out and get a rookie, because we cannot take these retread quarterbacks on a non-explosive offense. It
needs to be Fields
that are not historically explosive and that are going to have problems. Unequivocally, I don't see a reason for that.
So that being said, let's dive into this roster here and see how.
Yeah, he did that week 10.
I still do think that the quarterback's the weakest spot of our team, where we have Baker, Bryce Young, and Shadir Sanders.
Disagree.
See, it's a good floor. It's just not a ceiling.
Joe, can you pull up our roster?
That's what I'm pulling up right now.
Well, can you put it on the screen so people can see the roster instead of the draft board?
No, because it doesn't really work good on Underdog, unfortunately.
Well,
your running backs.
You can do it. Just toggle the screen.
Yeah, I got it. It just doesn't look as good. All right, so your quarterbacks are Baker, Bryce, and Shadir. Your running backs, Genty, Caleb Johnson, Tank, Devin Neal, Trey Benson, and Tootin.
That's
your
definitely
receivers are the strength of this roster. There's no way around it. Brian Thomas, Evans, DJ Moore, Godwin, McMillan, Leggett, Coker. For the sake of this team, I hope Godwin does go to a different roster. I think your tight end backfill should not be as bad as the ADP is, which shows you just how the value of it. Sanders completing the complete Carolina stack. Gesicki, who I think is a stud.
There's a lot of trust in the NFC South sucking again.
Yeah, but that's what they do. So
yeah.
So, I mean, you can make an argument, Disley, who would I have taken instead of Disley, who went after him? No one really jumps off the page of, you need that guy. Except for maybe DeMarcus Robinson.
Joe, the problem here
that's about
isn't necessarily in Disley, it's in the build. Rarely do 4 tight end builds make it to any finals in terms of the best ball market because there's such a low floor position.
You're 100% right, but most
that,
markets only have 18 teams. With the 2 extra draft picks, I figured, why the hell not?
I mean, like I would have rather have maybe taken a chance on another running back or another wide receiver.
Well, DeMarcus Robinson would have been the one we would have taken a chance with. The value of him is that if Cup moves, he did good without Cup last year.
Go back up. I mean, go to the draft board. So this speaks a little bit to the strategy that we were talking about today in pinpointing a couple of guys that you really want, taking them at value or a little bit over value. You can really build a strong team. Now, this predicates your belief system in certain aspects of certain teams. So, for example, in this build, for this build to be successful, one of the things that we believe is that Tampa Bay
going to throw the hell out of the ball.
Is going to throw the ball a lot, which I don't think that anybody disagrees with.
No.
Granted, there is going to be a change in the OC, but the offensive line is stable enough to support a massive Tampa Bay onslaught. So if Tampa Bay onslaught is what you believe in, and I believe in it, there's a really good chance that this team is going to be very successful. You pair that then with 2 wide receivers that are the alphas on their team and have the potential to have 10 plus touchdown upside if used properly with 1,200 yard touchdown or 1,200 yards.
They're also regularly 8 target a game guys.
And you're saying to yourself, okay, well, 4 of these players are going to start for us every week, right? So if we take a little bit of a bath in the running back market for this strategy, say we take a bath in the running back market, which we kind of did by taking 2 rookies as our anchors at the running back position. But
I don't think that'll be a bath when it all comes said and done, dude.
Doing that,
you put a little DL and DN next to those 2 guys.
Doing that and going out and saying to yourself, okay, we're going to procure a certain build that we wanted. So the pro of this is we were able to get our onslaught minus the Bucky. We were able to get our onslaught. We built it out. Nobody took it from us. We have a nice build for Tampa Bay if Godwin goes and if Godwin stays. So we have both sides of the coin there, and we believe in that. Then the other part of this is that we do have a Bryce Young stack. So in the weeks where maybe Baker's not doing 25-point weeks, we're hoping that Bryce Young can do that. And with that split, is it that the NFC South defenses are going to be extremely improved? That's something to think about. Also, we have a mini stack, which is an unstacked quarterback in Brian Thomas Jr. and Tank Bigsby. In this belief system and getting both Brian Thomas Jr. and Tank Bigsby, what we are saying we believe in is that they are going to move the ball and be in the red zone a little bit more.
And I think they will. Happen? I don't think they could be as dead. Jacksonville was really an underperforming team
as they were last year. And also in the fact is, will healthy Trevor Lawrence be better for Brian Thomas Jr. than Mac Jones was? Mac Jones really loved Brian Thomas Jr. So that's something to say in there. What we're also saying with Trey Benson is that we believe that James Conner isn't going to play a full season.
Yeah.
You know how I feel about James Conner, everybody who's caught the show before. Then the rookies. So going after rookies in the capacity that we did, we have 3 rookie running backs. What we're saying with that kind of strategy,
4 rookie running backs.
What we're saying with that strategy is that this free agent class isn't very good. So they're old, they're retreaded, they're oft injured, they're not explosive. So why would a team want to invest in a non-rookie running back insofar as that is the case that you could go out there and get a basically kind of free rookie and build off of them for the future. So I think with this build, does it give us a good chance to get out of a pod like this? Yes. There's a very good chance with the way that this is built that we have a very good chance to get out. Now, speaking of the quarterbacks, let's say Baker doesn't produce. Let's say Bryce doesn't produce, right? We have Shedeur. Now, there's no way that a team, you believe, Joe, that they're not going to play Shedeur if they get him, regardless. if
Yeah,
I'm a team
no,
and I'm
I said they
drafting,
shouldn't, but there's no way you draft them in the top 10 picks and don't use them.
let's say Shadur goes to
The Giants.
Raiders. Let's say he goes to the Giants. There's a good chance that he has 18 plus touchdown upside in terms of passing touchdowns. And maybe you can walk yourself into a couple rushing touchdowns because, again, the Giants don't run the ball well. They run it okay. They don't run it well.
They don't really do much well in New York, either side.
Let's, I've been hearing talks that maybe Stafford goes to New York. That would be interesting there. But again, when you build out these are all the pros of what we just did, right? The pros of going into a draft, having a set list of players that you like. You go out and get them. You get them. You're not worried too much about ADP, but you try to get them around ADP or a little bit later. Here's the cons. The cons of this is that we had a couple more guys that we wanted to get, but we couldn't build them. The Josh Allen, the Lamar. So if you go up the board a little bit more, Joe.
Yeah, but some of that was also on our fault, though, Bob, for being unrealistic in who we were trying to shop for,
Yeah,
I mean, it is. Pick 4 third-round guys.
But here's the benefit. You see it's a con and a pro at the same time, is that not building out Lamar or Josh as not taking the 4th round guy kind of normalized a little bit after like the 10th round in terms of what they're picking.
Pretty sure auto pick kicked in after that.
Yeah, but what I'm looking at here is that just looking at these top end quarterbacks on a week-to-week basis, Lamar and Josh Allen do have more upside than Baker. But Baker does have one of those, could have a season if you believe in it, which we do for this draft. If he does, 7th round on Baker is going to be great, especially knowing that we could stack him in the way that we did. Now, going after some of the cons, knowing that we wanted Mike Evans, we didn't prioritize a guy like Jackson Smith. We didn't prioritize.
Jackson Smith to me is the big one.
Running backs.
Njigba would have been on this team instead of Evans.
Now, I'm going to tell you this, though, right now, is that a con of this is that we went heavier into the rookies. So Joe wanted to get 2 running backs on this team early. And I went and I said, I want Brian Thomas Jr. instead of the running backs. This could have been an Ashton Genty.
That being said, given the fact that it would have been Genty and A-Chain, I think I like Thomas Genty more than the real reason I wanted to take 2 running backs early, aside from the fact that I'm a running back whore, was the fact that I knew that we had 5 receivers on our must-get list. Now, granted, we got 4 of the 5. So with Thomas, I fundamentally, I like any single time that your first 6 picks are all starters. That's why I hate the 5 receiver starts.
No, I feel that.
So I like how this team lays out, because when Godwin
it's just another way to look at
your flex, you have a really strong roster. You just do.
It's another way to look at it. It really is. And it goes and to your point here, family, about.
But I look at the guy next to us. He doesn't have the same thing. I mean, his flex is McBride or Kittle.
Yeah, I mean, looking all things considered, and you see before we get to family's comment here, you see the team next to us at team 10. Love the Nico, but then they do a Joe. They pull a Joe. They go 2 running backs, and then they pull another Joe.
Dude, to be totally honest, I think I would have taken JT
and they take
or A-Chain instead of McCaffrey.
Right. And they take Rice and Reed and Ayuk. And I honestly, any wide receiver could pop off. But when you look at these situations and you look at the usages this year, Addison, Reed, and Ayuk, and when you compare them to Mike Evans, DJ Moore, and Godwin, aren't too much variable. But the variable thing there is Jayden Reed. Is Jayden Reed's upside there? Maybe.
Dude, the more and more noise out of Green Bay, they're down on all their receivers.
But you definitely, as family commented here, and as you just said, Joe, you want your guys to be on the field. Jayden Reed is not on the field enough. Chris Godwin is on the field enough.
Well,
maybe Chris Godwin's resurgence was due to Liam Cohen wanting to give the ball to the slot more. Absolutely, that could be it. But I don't see that changing. Even with a new coach, because you saw how well they did with that being the case. So why would you change it? You look at some other teams here. Looking at Team 8 with CD and Drake, I think that's a fantastic start.
No, it's
But
not.
then you go with Chase Brown and Marv. That could really be
Big
deadly.
argument that their second best receiver they took in the 5th round.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. I do like Drake London a lot, but where I'm saying this is,
we are polar opposites on Drake London.
I know. I probably will not be taking him in the second round. But he has tremendous upside with Michael Penix. I think you're just writing him off too much.
But I just want to point this out, just draft in general. The receivers selected after Neighbors until Mike Evans include that whole list there of the second and third round. The only ones that I think are appropriately slotted are Higgins and Tyreek. The rest of them, I think you're overpaying for.
Well, I don't think Wilson. I don't think anybody would be down on Wilson.
I don't know. Adam is a 4th round grade last year. I was pretty much right on that. And I don't see a reason to improve them based upon the Jets.
I think if you're looking for comparable statistic production, I see where you're going with that. A guy like Garrett Wilson, while he is an alpha on his team,
you got to score to be mattered. I see the Jets playing 13-9 football all year, trying to get the first pick overall.
That's their family. I want to get up to your comment here. Most of the second round after Drake, I'd take over him apart from pick 4. Yeah. I mean, Drake London's one of those guys, and that's why I said I wouldn't necessarily take him in the second round. But if he were to fall to me at the beginning of the third, let's say I'm sitting there and I'm drafting 4th overall, and this guy's picks are whatever. But if let's presume you take Bijan in the 4 slot, if he's there, you come back around, you get JT, assuming that he's there. And if the 3rd round came up and Drake London weren't to go yet, we could be
Jigba before him.
I disagree with that. I disagree with that 100%, because Njigba doesn't he profiles differently. Okay. As how he's being used. I would rather invest that pick not in a slot wide receiver. And that's why you also maybe you're down on last.
See, and this is another thing between the half PPR to full PPR. The full PPR, the slots are way more valuable.
Yeah, so you would want to target a guy like Ladd. But I'm also, Drake London had bad games and good games this year. We know why he did. And 2 years ago, I was talking up Drake London. Put the draft board back up. I was talking up Drake London, and I still think that talk is true given the quarterback, given the potential at his quarterback position. He now has a quarterback that can actually consistently throw the ball, isn't going to be nervous in 4:00 games. Also a good offensive line. I don't think that I agree with this family. I don't think that, I'd be taking Drake over, you go in, obviously, Jamar, Jefferson, Nakua, Lamb, Brown, Nico, Brian Thomas Jr. is your top 7. And
Neighbors, I think, is put himself as the next one.
For me, again, Neighbors. But when you profile the next group of wide receivers, okay, that next group of wide receivers, a lot of people will say T and Hill. Mm-hmm. Some people yet will say Wilson and Higgins. Some people yet will say A.J. Brown and Higgins as well, or A.J. Brown and Hill. And I will say, and I this is going to be controversial, that I would probably put Drake above A.J. Brown, knowing that Drake's usage is again, A.J. Brown is the first read target. I get that. But both of those teams have kind of similar kind of perspectives in terms of the passing game and the running game. And while A.J. Brown has posted better numbers, in his career, Drake London for me is a little bit interesting. And I'm willing to take a little bit of a gamble there on the A.J. Brown bus. But I think that Garrett Wilson's target share could be really interesting, assuming that he's the only wide receiver there. But I'm definitely taking Drake over Mike Evans. If given the opportunity, if he's available to me in the 3rd round. But I think the 2nd round is a prime location that I would rather prioritize. And this is not saying anything against Drake. But this is primarily saying that I would rather have Jonathan Taylor than Drake London.
Yeah, I think that's the fundamental answer. The second round, at least the way it's sitting right now, I'm sure it'll adjust, but you're in general better off with the running back. The exception of maybe McCaffrey, because I mean the thing with McCaffrey is he could be a league winner. He also could be an absolute nothing for you.
Yeah,
and Achilles can linger.
And to the point here from family earlier is Sam Howell is kind of an interesting kind of pick here because who knows what they're going to do with Geno. Geno is kind of a telegraphable player. Plays really well first half of the season, second half of the season kind of disappears a little bit.
But what family did is he got rid of old aging assets.
And these are three
and then a floater on Sam Howell. I think that's a good trade.
These are three liability players where Keenan Allen, while he put up a great statistics for a lot of games this past year with the Bears, if he ends up going,
and so we have another slot, no outside presence.
He could go back to the Chargers, and then he doesn't have any value because you're not going to take.
I bet Keenan Allen's going to very quickly realize the league in general doesn't value him as much as he thinks they should.
But I like a trade like this where, Devonta Smith has upside. He's a little bit of an interesting player here. Fourth round, Devonta Smith was drafted here. When it comes to these guys, Joe, in the fourth round, I honestly think that us getting DJ Moore at the top half of the fourth round is probably, outside of Xavier Worthy, one of the more interesting wide receiver selections in the fourth round.
So Zay, I want to talk about this because I actually think Kyren is a complete and utter trap. Kyren is in the same mold as Pacheco.
I like the Gamble family.
He was a situational great asset, being the number one running back of the Rams. Individual talent level, he ain't got it. He's just a situational guy who's getting it pounded.
Well when
Scatterboo ends up there,
Joe,
Scatterboo will get 20 touchdowns.
Joe, I want to clarify when you say situational. It's not that he's
situational. The fact he's the Rams starting running back.
Yeah, that's the situation. Not that he's a situational running back.
But, he's not a goal line guy. I mean, he is a goal line guy.
Yeah,
but he's not purely a goal line guy.
One of the things, Zai, about Kyren, and
he could lose his job.
One of the things that we talked about week 3 was that, when there was like an injury to Kyren, it was a little bit nerve-wracking because Kyren offers you strictly volume. And that, for the Rams, worked well this year. But when we look into next season's iteration of the Rams, they're moving on from Cooper Kupp, maybe Stafford. They move on from Stafford as well. They went out and got Blake Corum, and there's a lot of kind of hearsay conjecture that if you have a running back that doesn't provide explosiveness in the way that you would want a guy like Kyren to get explosive, if you're not able to move the ball downfield, and this is kind of one of the downfalls for Kyren and a lot of players and a lot of running backs in the league, is that if you aren't moving the ball into the red zone, then you are not going to be as valuable because Kyren doesn't display that breakaway speed. In the fourth round, though, similarly to the kind of the Drake London perspective that we were talking about, right? I don't think that you are like, if you're sitting there in the fourth, and I guarantee this, if I would not have said to Joe to take DJ Moore in the fourth round, that there would probably be Joe's inkling to say, okay, I'm taking Kyren in the fourth round. Despite what he said about, what he thinks Kyren's situation is, Joe and a lot of other drafters, look, Kyren in this draft is the only running back in that fourth round, and it's most likely because that guy at number 4 took Hollywood Brown. I think that Kyren probably trends into the back end of the third round, with some variation with the Lamar, where those quarterbacks are taken. I don't think Kyren's a bad pick, but I definitely would rather have the potentiality of the upside wide receiver position, knowing that Kyren doesn't offer you that explosiveness. And hey, if Corum does, maybe they start using him more. And that's the question mark in that discussion there. As it goes to Mike Williams, Mike Williams was Mike Williams, the Steelers are so disappointing. You go out
Well,
and get
here,
Mike Williams and you
family,
give him
let me put it
17
like this:
targets.
there's no real NFL team going to build a roster around Mike Williams. You shouldn't be either. He's not. He will be a waiver wire cut after you guys do your draft. I would put zero emphasis on getting him on your team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not emphasizing Mike Williams. Maybe in some leagues, if I'm doing a back end stash, maybe I take him. But I don't think he's a necessity. Dealing Darnold, I'm okay with dealing a guy like Darnold. This year was pretty good for some games and not good in some other games. There are other quarterbacks out there with pulses that are probably going to turn out and have a great game, like James Winston had this year. There's going to be a lot of rookies coming out there. I don't think it's so worrisome to worry about your third quarterback there necessarily. Going out there and trading and getting a 110 for Darnold, that's a steal, man. Because Darnold isn't going to return super value, I don't think, this year as he did last year. I think he's going to be a little bit in regular non-best ball leagues. I think Darnold's going to be a little bit overdrafted if he ends up staying. But if he goes to the Raiders, maybe that's worth it. I don't know. Team 8, yeah, like I was saying, Team 8, there's a little bit of a risk in, or Team 9 it is. Team 9 has a little bit of a less risk here. You're looking at Amon-Ra, Cortland Sutton, and Jacoby Myers. Now, here's where their risk is at, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
You look and you say, okay, Team 9 went out there, got Devin Achane, Kyren, and Alvin Kamara. All three of those running backs have problematic situations. You look at it and you say, hey, Devin Achane, situational guy. How much will he see the field? Will he get 20 plus carries a game? Probably not. Probably slots into like the James Cook 15. You want to get him 25 touches a game though, because that accounts for receiving work and rushing work. If you can get Devin Achane 25 touches, totally worth it. Kyren is going to get 25 touches a game. Are they going to be quality touches? Probably not. Then Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara slots as a similar kind of touch guy as Devin Achane. Are they going to give him 25 plus touches a game? Will that offensive line support that? Big gamble there. Then you go and you take 3 wide receivers that, although very solid, where's your upside with Cortland Sutton? Where's your upside with Jacoby Myers? So there's really no consistent upside. Like Jacoby Myers is a solid guy, super solid guy. Super solid guy. But I don't think that if you built out Cortland Sutton and Amon-Ra, that you want to take a guy like Jacoby Myers. How do you feel about that, Joe?
I mean, the fundamental fact is Myers isn't really going to give you anything. He's going to probably be replaceable.
I feel that.
When it's all said and done. So it's like the key thing I look at this when we're talking about any pre-draft.
I like getting a 110.
Is that you want to the existing NFL players, you want to make sure that they cannot get their situation moved. And the NFL as a whole, 40% of every roster gets turned over, which means unless you are established as a very clear number 2 level talent, you're not going to have a guaranteed job next year. Jacoby Myers is not a receiver 2 on virtually any other team. Maybe in Washington. Maybe.
In Washington, yes. Arizona, yes. Colts,
my point
yes.
is it's a very short list,
Giants,
which means it's
yes.
a very easy hurdle for the Raiders to be able to overcome it. And when I look at that, even if he does hold on to being receiver number 2, he's the number 3 or 4 option every play. So I don't want to lean – and then that doesn't even get into the fact the Raiders don't do anything. So I don't really want to lean into Oakland ever.
Yeah, and Joe, to your point though, and to the point I want to make about this lineup here, is that this lineup has a huge risk without just looking at, because you can't lose it in the first 7 picks, or you can't win it with the first 7 picks, but you can definitely lose it. And I feel like this up until this couple of rounds, discounting team number 4. when you look at Amon-Ra, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
is that there's definitely some touchdown upside to the first three picks.
Sure.
But coming down and going with mine's sleeping right now. When you look at Kyron, Cortland, Kamara, and Myers, they definitely have some touchdown market that's solid, but not necessarily ones that are going to be super sustainable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if the Rams can't move the ball, Kyron's value goes down. If Cortland Sutton is going to maybe get phased out for Mims or Troy Franklin this year, maybe his touchdown upside goes out, and he's not a huge 100-yard guy. Then Alvin Kamara, if you're looking at Alvin Kamara, do you see 25 touches continuing in his future? Probably not. And can he continue to be explosive and usable with 15 touches? Because that's kind of the threshold of a running back that you kind of want to buy into. Then you go down, and while you see the name with Kamara there, would you rather take Kamara with potentially 15 touches or take one of the rookies that's going to be more involved?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the rook. Then you go to Jacoby, and Jacoby, while solid asset, if you're building a team like that, see you, family. If you build a team like that, I just don't see where where the great kind of value is, especially when you compare it to team number 2 and 3.
I'm completely with you. Team number 9 did a bad draft, and we don't need to keep pumping that in. With Z's question here, thoughts on Kupp. So I still think Kupp, all said and done, is going to be a receiver number 2 talent. I don't think that he's lost that. So getting him on your roster, I'm completely fine with, especially in the 9th and 10th round. Let's see where
I agree, family.
One.
Where'd D-Cup go? There he is, 8th round.
Okay, 8th round. So if you're getting him in the 9th round,
team 5.
I look at the other receivers for this through this
range.
I
would much rather have Pearsall.
Pearsall is a guy one above him. McMillan, Golden, but that's really kind of about it. I want him before Shaheed or Bateman. As the other part with Kupp is he's going to be a volume play. He's not going to be the explosive play. So if your team already has 3 high floor guys, Kupp might be a little bit redundant. But if you took some all or nothing people, especially a rookie laden team, I'm totally okay with putting Kupp on it.
Well, here's the problem with Kupp, Joe.
Is a good combo.
Here's the problem with Kupp is when you look at the potential scoring output for any of these guys in the 8th, 9th round, especially in the wide receiver position, all of them kind of outside of QJ, but maybe you want to include QJ in the discussion. But you look at Shakir, Pearsall, Kupp. What do they all have in common? They're all playing the slot very consistently. Jalen McMillan to the same kind of extent. And you look at it and you say, okay, if I'm looking at these 3 guys specifically, and they're going to be kind of around one another almost all the time, and it's going to be a big decision that people are going to have to make when they do little boards and big boards and whatnot. And you look at, okay, Cooper Kupp doesn't have a team yet. So already there's flux on Cooper Kupp. So why would I pick Cooper Kupp over a guy like Pearsall or Shakir? That's why Pearsall and Shakir are going.
Well, because you know whatever team trades for him is going to want.
Kupp. Then your decision comes down to, okay, you look at the rest of the draft board. The next wide receiver wasn't taken until round 9, at the end of round 9. And it's a rookie. Then you have Shaheed, Bateman, Mooney, Hunter, and Pittman. Is Kupp leagues and bounds ahead of Shaheed, Bateman, Mooney, Hunter, and Pittman in terms of this format? Probably not. So I don't really want to invest an 8th round pick in a guy that I don't really believe could be better.
But to your point, Zay, getting him in the 9th and 10th is probably where he should be. And I think that's totally fine and legit.
Yeah, and going off this, if that, going back up, there's a huge discrepancy here in the 6th round, Joe. I want to just return to the 6th round before we kind of head out. Looking at
6th round's rough, man.
6th round running backs and 7th round running backs. This is going to be a really interesting to see develop as we go through the offseason best balls here.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're looking at 1, 2, 3. We're taking Raheem Sanders out of it. 3, 4 rookie running backs.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 running backs that are, and 5 running backs that are kind of aging and have concerns. So Tony Pollard's concern is that the coach said specifically last year, we want to wind Tony Pollard down. We're giving him too much work.
Yeah, that's
One of the things about the Titans was too is as they were losing by bigger numbers, Tony Pollard didn't get the ball a lot. When they were winning, Tony Pollard got the ball a lot. So the question is, if you're buying into Tony Pollard this year, then you're believing that the Titans are going to be up more than they're going to be down. And I don't think I can believe that.
Nope.
James Conner's usage is really, really freaking weird as well. Some games he wasn't seen as all. Other games he was used a lot. So I'm not willing to buy into the running back in that regards as well. Joe, you believe in Tyron Tracy. I believe in Tyron Tracy too. But do I believe in him more than I believe in Trevion Henderson, Quentin Judkins, Caleb Johnson? Probably not. And then Kenneth Walker. We spoke about him earlier in his opportunities with Grubbs out. So you look at this, and notwithstanding Team 4 there being an asshole, this room, but also you look at the wide receivers that are being taken in this realm as well, with Olave, Reed, Waddle, Pickens, Judy, Igbuka, Ridley, Myers, Ayuk, and Jennings. We need to talk about this because all of these players are not. It's nothing that I'm excited about.
I'm excited about Olave and Pickens.
I'm not, but I'm not down on these players. But I will say that when I'm comparing value at these running backs versus these wide receivers.
In fact, Olave might be a guy we should start adding. I think he has a chance of being stud.
These wide receivers, out of all of these guys, if you've been tuning in with us long enough, you know that we don't necessarily believe in Olave as a high round pick. But if you're betting on Olave in the 6th or 7th round, I'm willing to bet on him there.
Yeah.
He will disappear. He will come back. But that goes to the point that I'm trying to make Joe about these running back wide receiver variations here, is that I really do think that this 6th, 7th round, if I can come out, and again, this speaks to the rookie wide receivers as well. With 1 rookie and 1 vet, I'm okay. If I come out with 2 rookies, I'm also okay. If I come out with a quarterback and a rookie, I'm equally as okay, because I don't see a veritable difference in the week-to-week production out of these potential rookie running backs and these veteran wide receivers that are out there right now. Will these veteran wide receivers be able to spike plus 15 points? Sure. They should. But these running backs who are rookies should be given those opportunities as well.
Yeah.
And Kamara kind of feels like if you're sitting here, Kamara feels like a value, but also if you believe in Kamara, the things that you also have to believe are that his usage will stay the same. They won't be getting Kendre Miller, or they won't be getting another running back, and that the offensive line will improve drastically. If you believe those 3 things, then Alvin Kamara should be on your team in the 6th round.
Alvin Kamara should not be on your team. You should not believe those things.
He shouldn't be there.
You should not believe those things.
That's what I'm saying. But I really want to take a look when we draft again this next time, and just keep tabs of that 6th, 7th round and see where the variation is, because I haven't seen a lot of variation in the players that are available there or that people want to pick. And I think our variation was taking Baker higher, after a couple episodes of us talking about running backs and quarterbacks and things like that in that round. I think that that's interesting. And I don't know, I'm just really intrigued by that setup in that 6th, 7th round between the rookie wide receivers and the veteran wide receivers. Because do you honestly feel like Calvin Ridley is going to be a week-to-week better scorer than Luther Burden? Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
We'll just see.
Yeah. This round 6, Kittle, Godwin, Connor. Joe, pull up the board again. Just real quick. We got Caleb Johnson. We took Godwin a round earlier. Kittle going around there as well, and Connor at the back end of the 6th round. Again, I am going to go on record and say that I am off Connor this year. He's not a full fade, but I am off of him, at least at value. I'd rather take a chance on a rookie in that round in terms of the running back market, or Ken Walker, if available to me. But we've drafted from the top half, Joe, and now we've drafted from the back half.
We have.
And
that's good one in the middle, wasn't it?
I'm kind of really not opposed to the back half here. I think
I think I prefer the front half.
Well, of course you prefer to get Bijan. I mean,
yeah.
Of course. But
running back core salute.
The front half of this draft definitely supports a Joe running back core mentality.
Especially when you can pair him up with JT on the comeback. But you guys want to see on Wednesday at 3:45.
Wednesday, 3:45 Eastern Standard Time. We'll be drafting again. We're just going to talk about some different strategies, what works, what doesn't work. And that's what we're here for. We're here to just kind of do that legwork with you guys, do that legwork for you as well, and just kind of pound out a couple of drafts showing you what you can make, what you probably don't want to make. There was a couple of those drafters in there that you probably didn't want to make. But we'll be back 3:45 Eastern Standard on Wednesday. So see y'all then.
Welcome to Local Football Flavor, connecting the fan bases of the NFL.